Hi, Zheng. Could you please start with a brief introduction about yourself?
Just a quick introduction of myself. My name is Zheng. I'm currently working as a consultant in Kearney, based in Singapore. Started the position over a year ago, and prior to that, I've done a summer internship together with the same firm. Before that, some industry experience. How I came across Case Prep Zone was exactly for the preparation for my summer internship at Kearney, or ATK, used to be known as, and that has helped me a lot and got me into the door, and here I am 1 year later into the job, and really enjoying myself.
Thank you, Zheng. Do you still recall that what was your biggest worry or concern when it comes to case interview or landing a job in consulting or landing a job in a dream company in general?
The biggest worry was understanding guidelines and frameworks that employers and then you can find online, what do they look for. But it is always about that expectation that I don't know how that looks like in reality. So you can have a job description, you can have certain description of what, for example, an ideal consultant should look like or how to approach an interview. But I think for me, the most difficult part was to see it in action, how that good looks like, and to measure myself up whether or not I am to that level, right? It's one thing reading it on text, but also definitely a very different thing seeing and also doing it, especially to an interview. It's a short process and you have one shot.
Thank you for that. What made you decide to prepare interviews with Case Prep Zone, and how did your case interview knowledge performance improve before versus after the coaching session? And do you still recall how did Case Prep Zone help you along in the process?
I think as with many other people trying to get into consulting, the default way was the case with my friends. So that was how I had a lot of experience and a time spent chasing with my friends, and that kind of got me through round 1 and round 2 of a few interviews. But I felt like at that point in time, I was reaching a point of diminishing returns, and also understanding the second final round is going to be with partners who difference in seniority. So that's when I thought, okay, maybe I needed a little bit more experience, more pointed guidance. And also that points me back to what I mentioned just now as well, because I know conceptually what is looking or the firm is looking for, but I don't know how that looks like, right? And me casing with other friends, my peers who are also in the same state of not knowing, did not give me that much comfort going in and confidence going to the final round. So that was when I thought, hey, I came across Case Prep Zone. I saw that the coaches are actual working consultants, and also even some of the managers are actually the same people giving out interviews. So I thought, hey, this is exactly aligned to the pain point that I was having, so the kind of uncertainty, and they started to pull a trigger, and then that was helpful. In terms of what before and after, in terms of my case knowledge, what did I expand on? For me, going in at that point, I've already, a lot of the basics I've already covered with those sessions with my peers, but what really helped me expand in terms of that is more of that intangibles. Like, for example, how do I present myself? How do I articulate my thoughts? How do I say the same thing but in a much convincing way? And well, basically you got to hear from a consultant, right? I mean, it's like learning to cook. There's so much a cookbook can do, but seeing a chef in action is different. So I believe Sean, who was my coach, he gave me very pointed tips like, all right, how should I sit? How should I articulate different words? Very small nuanced things like how do I structure my arguments. So the delivery of it was a key part for me coming on. So, and then I do see that really helping me a lot in the final round interview, especially where it was a bit less structured, like less doing of math, but more of how can I engage and build rapport with the partner who was interviewing.
Thank you, Zheng. In your opinion, what sets our interview coaching services apart from other similar services, if you have engaged one?
I've not actually engaged in a similar kind of service that's paid, but I did look at it. So I was weighing my options at that point in time. So that was the only instance where I was in the market looking for coaching services. What set Case Prep Zone apart, I think, two things. Number one, the rates were affordable for a student at that time. In terms of just counting the ROI, I think it was at a sweet spot where I could pay, but also sufficient to compensate the expense for that time. So that was one. And then secondly was, again, it was the same people who are in, for example, I'm applying for a Singapore office. The coach that I applied for, that I tried to reserve the time for, has worked in the Singapore office. So having that, I think I've not seen that same sort of offering being offered somewhere else. Most are based in the US or other countries. So something that pointed and so specific was what differentiated. And also I think having the exact profiles of the coaches to look at, I think that level of transparency was a big source of comfort. Again, by going back to that, was giving me enough comfort to invest in what little amount of money I had in the point in time into this, in myself. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and glad to hear that. Last questions from us is, would you recommend our interview coaching services to other students? And what would you tell future candidates if they are still hesitating whether they should sign up for Case Prep Zone or not?
For sure, I'll recommend anybody who is seriously considering getting into consulting and getting that final push from an expert to just hone yourself into that. My advice is just give it a shot, right? I think the Singapore culture or the Asian culture is we want to be very prudent, but I think if we are true consultants or you're truly aspiring to be a consultant, you can do the easy math. The return on investment potential is very high. And from my experience, that paid out for me. I managed to get the offer that I wanted, that I was preparing for, and I think a non-small part of it is attributed to the preparation I had with Case Prep. So 100% recommend.
Thank you, Zheng.